A year ago, almost to the day, Michael Matheson stood in this chamber to deliver wholly unbelievable excuses about billing taxpayers for his £11,000 iPad bill. It seems the SNP have learned nothing from that scandal. Michael Matheson misused taxpayers' money to watch football on his iPad. Neil Gray did it to watch football in person. The SNP have substituted one shamed Health and Social Care Secretary for someone even less serious. Neil Gray charged taxpayers for ministerial limos to watch his football team. So what is it with SNP ministers taking taxpayers for a ride?
First Minister.
President Officer, it's always been the case that ministers will attend sporting, cultural, societal and community events around the country. Indeed, I would expect ministers to do that because they have got to be in contact with various stakeholders around the country. So ministers will continue to engage on issues of importance with groupings around the country.
Russell Findlay.
Thank you. These luxury cars, they're not free taxis to the football for SNP ministers. Neil Gray claims he attended these games to discuss essential government business. He tells us that the social impact investment...
Mr Findlay, just a second. Can I just ensure that we can hear one another?
Neil Gray tells us that the social impact investment in sport was on the agenda. This just so happened to be during a major cup tie for the team that he supports. In the real world, his excuses lack any credibility. SNP ministers are having us on. Is John Swinney seriously telling us that vital government business took place at these games?
First Minister.
President, as I said in my first answer, I expect ministers to be engaged with a variety of stakeholders in events and gatherings around the country, whether they are cultural, societal, social or sporting events. That has always been the case in every administration in the United Kingdom, and I would expect my ministers to do exactly that.
Russell Findlay.
Thank you, President Officer. John Swinney should put a stop to this nonsense and order the Health and Social Care Secretary to refund taxpayers. Neil Gray seems more interested in football freebies than doing the job that he's paid for. Scotland's NHS is in crisis and social care is broken. And for years we've said the SNP's National Care Service plans were a complete mess. In our very first exchange, I urged John Swinney to scrap it and to save taxpayers' money. And I'm very glad that he seems to have listened to some common sense for a change. But what has taken him so long?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, on the question of the work rate of ministers, Neil Gray has undertaken 347 engagements since he became the Health Secretary in February 2024, 34 of them in hospital and care facility visits, 17 surgery visits and meetings with GPs, 43 health board meetings, 24 conferences, receptions and speaking events, 152 general meetings, 15 meetings about health service pay, 62 meetings with MSPs, MPs, councillors and media engagements, and 5 sporting events. 5 sporting events out of 347 engagements. So I think that rather demonstrates that the Health Secretary is focused on the job, as one might put it. Now, on the issue of the National Care Service, I've made it very clear that the government is listening. My government is a listening government. We are listening to the views of members of the public. We're listening to the fact that people from disabled people's organisations, carers, service users are urging us to implement a national care service because they are dissatisfied, as I am, with the variation in care around the country, the postcode lottery. So that's what the National Care Service proposal is about, but the government will take its time to ensure that we get the proposals right and bring forward proposals that can command parliamentary support.
Russell Findlay.
The SNP have already wasted £29 million in a national care service that hasn't cared for a single person. These plans should be scrapped entirely and investment put directly into frontline social care where it is so desperately needed. SNP ministers have a reckless disregard for taxpayers' money. The Health and Social Secretary, Neil Gray, takes limos to the football. John Swinney wastes cash in a national care service that everybody knows is not going to work. It should not just be delayed, it should be binned. So why won't John Swinney put taxpayers' money into the front line where families will actually feel the benefit?
First Minister.
Well, that's precisely what this government has done, because we have increased the pay for social care workers to make working in the social care sector more attractive, so that we can deliver more social care packages for vulnerable members in the community so they can stay longer in their own homes. That's what we've done. And of course, when we brought forward those proposals, they were voted against by the Conservatives. So the Conservatives cannot come here and demand that I take action to improve the standards of social care service, which depend on the recruitment of social care employees, and to boost the size of the social care workforce, and then not be prepared to vote for them. That is what is called rank hypocrisy, and it's typical of the Conservatives.
Question number 2.